We're back, people, and today we're breaking down film on the New York Jets offense. Preview for the Dolphins right here. I know I just did one probably a few weeks ago because they played, but different matchup this time around with Zach Wilson at quarterback compared to Tim Boyle. So decided to make this video to look how they played against the Texans because it was a weird game. It was 0-0 at half, and then the Jets ended up getting 30 points. Want to see how they did that because they're going to come off some momentum. Dolphins coming off a big loss. Even though the Dolphins have their injuries, I still expect them to win this game. They still match up pretty well. Just looking at the running game, not very worried about that on either side of the ball against the Jets. Dolphins have been shutting down the run all year. The Jets have really struggled to get anything going with the run game. They might have like one big run, but it would be like a 0-yard gain, 0-yard gain, -3, 2-yard gain, 1-yard gain, and then maybe like a 15-yard gain. But overall, they have no consistency there in the running game. So I think the Dolphins will have a good job to get after the quarterback, creating some longer down and distances. So the Jets could come out and throw on play action a lot earlier. And then just looking at what they like to do, they're going to try to force feed Garrett Wilson in a lot of situations. 3rd and 8, you get Garrett Wilson isolated. That's where that ball is going. So I expect to see the Dolphins maybe bracket his side of the field, getting some cloud looks, depending where he lines up. There's a lot of different things you could do. I just think you're going to see a lot of 2 sets of eyes on Garrett Wilson at times because Zach Wilson will hold on to that ball and stare down Garrett Wilson for quite some time in that offense. He's a one-read QB. He's not a... But when it comes different from Tim Boyle, he'll stick that one read, and if it's not there, he'll escape the pocket, make some plays with his legs. He's a pretty good athlete, and he has arm talent too. But yeah, he'll make some poor decisions. You got to get pressure on him for sure. He'll take sacks, not a lot of throwaways in that area, but it'll be Garrett Wilson's that first option, and if it's not that, it'll be designed screens, dump offs to Breece Hall, and then he likes to throw the seam route down to Tyler Conklin, but all first read stuff for sure. So getting him off that first read, I think, having, different types of looks given to Garrett Wilson with 2 sets of eyes, no matter what, Fangio can do there, and then giving different types of pressure. And I think they can get pressure bringing just 4 against this Jets offensive line, which is another big thing because it's definitely not their strongest unit. Dolphins defense really has to step up, I think, this week to make up for that kind of collapse they had last game, to really build that momentum back up, especially because the Jets defense is elite. It'll be hard, I think a little bit harder for the Dolphins offense to get going. Just opened the game with 2 runs right away and then threw it on 3rd down. And then after that, they go to play action, trying to set that up. They escape the pocket. He actually gets a nice play here. They did this exact same thing against the Dolphins, actually, where they went play action boot off of it, and the Dolphins actually stopped it, forced a throwaway. I believe that was Jalen Phillips. But Wilson has a lot more juice to him than Tim Boyle does. He'll make some plays off script, and then you go straight to Garrett Wilson. They'll definitely be trying to throw the football on 1st down when that running game is, probably not going to work. They understand that, and they'll try to set up the running game so the play action works for them, but I think you could see them go away from it pretty quickly and just be ready for those 1st and 10 throws, especially the play action ones. Texans did play a decent amount of single high looks, playing some cover 1 throughout, or a 3 match, which the Dolphins will do a little bit of too. They ran a lot of 3 match last time and shut stuff down. If he gets a look that he likes, he stays single high, they go play action. On 2nd and 3, they go back-to-back play action and then hit the seam to Tyler Conklin. And I actually think this might be Zach Wilson's best throw. Even when he doesn't have perfect footwork, perfect, everything mechanically, he makes this throw pretty well. He's very comfortable throwing that seam versus single high. So that's something to definitely be aware of, and maybe they have a linebacker matched on him there, but it'll be a tough ask for this linebacker core to make those plays, and it's something they threw multiple times versus Houston. 3rd and 4, and how you basically stop these drives is just up front. You can do it with 4, you can do it probably with 5, but just getting pressure on Zach, he'll drop his eyes if he starts to feel it, and you got to get these hits. I know the Dolphins have, they struggled last week to bring down Levis. I think when it comes down to bringing down Zach, it will be a little bit easier because if you get a clean hit on Zach, he'll go to the ground. He's not going to, bounce off it like Levis or Hal. They're a little more, play strength, contact balance type quarterbacks. Zach's got some good athleticism to him, but he's not going to, escape in that pocket. Texans do a good job here, working their stunt game, crashing down, looping around here. 2 guys getting a free rein to the quarterback. That's something the Dolphins do very well. We saw how well the Dolphins got pressure on the Jets last time. You just got to get into these obvious passing situations where they're not, showing play action as well, because that can slow down the pass rush. 3rd and 9, the Texans just bring the pressure. Now, you can see Zach isn't super comfortable just going away from what the play is supposed to be instantly. He's hot here. They're bringing the house. The guy that's man-to-man on Garrett Wilson, who's the number 3, is right here. And Garrett peeks, like he's running a corner, but Garrett peeks like, oh, just throw me the ball, like no one's covering me. Pick this up, but Zach doesn't even take it. He's looking right at it, doesn't take it. And then now he's forced to try to escape the pocket. He's definitely late to process these things, so getting pressure on him is key. I don't mind whether they do it with 4, but I think you got to mix it up and show some of these blitzes against this quarterback. Breece Hall had a pretty good game receiving against the Texans. You give him this much space on the flat, and the Dolphins kind of struggled, these past 2 weeks, even against Washington, like their running backs had some good receptions versus the linebackers. Tajay Spears had some big plays receiving. Even Derrick Henry had a play down the field versus the Dolphins. I think this is one of the biggest things for like how all year long, not even with Zach. It doesn't really matter who the quarterback is. This stuff to Breece Hall has kind of been big for them. It's not like always open, but whenever they get him the ball in space, that's when he makes big plays. Behind the O-line, running, not a lot of lanes to work with. He hasn't been as effective, but he definitely can excel out in space. So you got to have somebody matching, aware of where he is. And I think without Baker on the field, because Baker kind of shut this down last time, it's going to be a big ask for Duke Riley to step up in that role. But just to show some running plays, like this Jets offense struggles to block up front on the running game. Like there's nowhere for Breece Hall to go. Like they lose 5 yards. This is like, not something I'm going to focus on too much just because they struggle with it. Dolphins are great against it. It's something I expect to be pretty good. Maybe they have, 1 or 2 plays that's, a surprise big one. But overall, the consistency of the game, it's not something I imagine the Jets are going to be successful at. And that will hurt their chances, I think, have a positive game script. 3rd and 8. They throw the deep cross to Garrett Wilson. They try to bring pressure. They actually block it up pretty well. Zach has all the time in the world. And just look at his eyes. I mean, the Jets are just matching up across the board. They have single high help. It gets incomplete. But, like, if you look at Zach this entire time, he just stares this down. He's not going through his reads. He's just going to throw this the whole time, not looking anywhere else. And that's something it's like, hey, if you see his eyes go somewhere, don't be afraid to jump it, I think, as a safety. Try to make a big play because he will stare down Garrett Wilson, especially if it's Wilson. Get to them, have 2 guys on it, and stop them on 3rd down situations just like that. Now getting to the second half is where they had a much bigger game. I know it looks like they scored 30, which they did, but it wasn't, I don't think, as impressive as the box score made it look like. The defense got them like some points there, especially late, but they did a better job driving and finishing. Looks like it's an RPO here on 2nd and 3. Like he has the option to run, but since he has a one-on-one to the outside, he takes that throw to Garrett Wilson. So hopefully, Ramsey in that specific play, but Ramsey, Howard, no matter what, can match up and make these plays back shoulder versus Garrett Wilson because he's a good player, and I think they need to bounce back a little bit after not having the greatest games last week. The whole secondary, I feel like, underperformed, so I want to see them bounce back. Then this is, I think, a good chance to do it versus the Jets. But they literally just come out and throw to Garrett Wilson right away. RPO, the first one, play action, get Garrett Wilson isolated one-on-one to the outside, and it's just one-on-one versus corner with all this room to work with. He has all the time in the pocket created from the play action. This is a 1st and 10 play. This is going to happen on 1st and 10s. I think you got to be aware of this. And then they get that exact look. There's no one playing underneath in the flat, and he's basically the corner's in a tough spot, and they have all that room, and they move down the field with these shots to Garrett Wilson. Then 3rd and 12, they're showing some pressure, single high look. They're trying to cheat to the Garrett Wilson side, and Zach Wilson just escapes the pocket and makes a big play. That's another area, like it's 3rd and 12. This is good work from him. You got to contain him within the pocket and not miss. Don't take poor angles. He'll spin out just like that, reset that feet, and that's where he's most comfortable making those throws down the field, is when he can be a little more loose and doesn't have too much to worry about. He's like, hey, I'm just going to sling that thing. That's a big part of his game, and he can make plays just like that. Then they score. This was their first touchdown, throwing the shallow cross to Randall Cobb. This is something they'll definitely do, whether it's mesh, different types of looks, spot behind it. This is something the Dolphins have struggled with, passing things off. Communication has to be good on the back end because the Texans don't pass it off. Then they get that first touchdown. Pretty good play design as well from the Jets, and that's where they started to, get things going. It's really all about slowing down Garrett Wilson. If you slow down Garrett Wilson, you slow down pretty much every drive. They'll get some other big plays to other people, but Garrett Wilson, is always involved. Got to show this because it is a screen play to Breece Hall, play action, 1st and 10. They will do this on 1st and 10. a lot of 1st and 10. They like to go play action, get Breece Hall the ball out in space. Be aware of it. This is going to be a lot on Duke Riley and David Long to be making these plays on 1st 10 to match. Like this linebacker even matches it, but just completely gets taken out of the play by the offensive lineman. You just got to shoot downhill right away to take that stuff out. Make the O-lineman block you before that ball is even thrown. Slip underneath. But this is, where they want to get Hall involved in this offense. He had like 9 catches last week for like 90 yards, something like that, or like 8 for 80. It was a big amount, and he had some big plays. Another example, getting Breece Hall a 1st and 10 screen. Like, I think they're even trying to set up a screen, but it kind of gets broken here a little bit with how they play it, or like he just instantly throws it down to a flat. It's just another check down option where they get the ball to Hall out in space, and he makes a nice big play. No one's there to match him. No one's seeing it the whole way. I think, you have a corner and a safety with eyes, on Garrett Wilson. Depending where he's lined up, you can bracket certain situations. You can't bracket or cloud him every play. It's just not, realistic. But in those obvious passing situations, that's what you want to do. Have multiple eyes on him. And then make sure one of your linebackers is at least matched up. Because it's not like Breece Hall is like some amazing route runner out there. It's just they like to get these designed plays out in space. And he can really make defenses pay. Last play we break down. Zach Wilson still took some sacks in this game when he faces that pressure like up in his face. So I want to see some interior pressure or like some pressure from the edges on some stunts. I think Van Ginkel having a big game is important because he has that athleticism where he can get and bring Zach Wilson to the ground, match him, change directions, things like that. But when he feels that pressure more coming from his inside, because this guy wins defensive tackle, they're even trying to work that stunt, but he just wins up there. They're able to bring him down with that, basically one arm. Didn't even get like a perfectly clean hit on him and still bring him to the ground because he's not the strongest quarterback. He'll make you miss with his athleticism, but you got to get hands on him, get him to the ground, finish these plays. The Dolphins defense, I think, has a chance still. This game is different than the last one, but it is still favored to the Dolphins. In my opinion, they match up pretty well. It's in Miami. Leave that other game behind. Move on. This is a huge one. Get to 10 wins. You get to 10 wins, you pretty much lock up at least a playoff spot, wildcard spot, and then you have a tough 3-game stretch where you can, I think, build upon as a team and see what you really got going into the playoffs. So eventually, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.